Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we just kill off our most expensive guest stars. Because this week we watched End of the Road.
By Ryan Scott and Jane Espensen.
Directed by Gwyneth Horder-Payton.
And aired on August 26th, 2011.
Gotta really admire Torchwood picking up the torch of Doctor Who related content being really low budget and just killing off some of the most expensive guest stars so that we can afford a completely different guest star for the final couple episodes. I'm specifically referring to blowing Wayne Knight and Nana Visitor up so that they can afford John Delancey.
Yeah, that wasn't actually a special effect. He actually died there. No.
Look, they really gave Nana Visitor the short end of the stick. She shows up for 10 seconds in the previous episode and like 3 minutes in this one. And it's like, this didn't have to be played by such a like established actor in Hollywood / I don't know, where's TV made? Everywhere? San Francisco, New York?
Yeah, Oklahoma, a random field out in the middle of nowhere. No, yeah, I didn't even know she was a big name person, actually.
I mean, John Delancey is like the biggest name actor that they've gotten for this show, and like one of the biggest names in Doctor Who as an entirety for television content. But we'll get there. We'll get there. First, we have to go down to the end of the road, I guess.
Yeah, as I said right before we started recording, a blatant lie. You see Esther driving at the end of the episode. The road's end is nowhere in sight. So...
Well, maybe she drove off the road and is just driving like through the wilderness now.
Yeah, that random field out in the middle of Oklahoma where they make television. No, they're in Nevada.
That random field where they make Torchwood specifically. Come on, Keon, get it right.
I did like the sort of structure and pacing of this episode. You know, things slow down. We're in this house for most of it. We're introduced to these new characters, and we're setting up a new mystery.
Things slow down, and then halfway through the episode, everything just shifts into breakneck pace for the final half of the episode. Like, as soon as Angelo dies, it's like running at 100 miles an hour until the end of the episode. But it picks up where we left off last week with Jack. Actually, he does agree to go with Olivia and her lackeys, for lack of a better term. for lack of a better term.
On fire tonight.
Hush. And they arrive at this house. Olivia is basically like, oh yeah, we know your family was never actually in danger. Just, proving the exact point that, like, I brought up when Gwen automatically assumed they were going to hurt her family. Olivia's just like, oh, they were just an insurance policy. We were never really going to hurt them. None of us can really stomach, like, killing someone.
It was just a prank, bro.
Kind of. It's kind of what she's saying.
Yeah.
She reveals that Angelo really has survived like the 90 years since Jack last saw Angelo by doing a lot of weird pseudoscience.
Yeah, so okay, this was actually really funny. They set up this thing where we're going to see Angelo, and he's the only one who knows what caused the miracle. And you're like, oh, okay, so he's still alive because he has something to do with the miracle. And he's used that, eternal life to set up this big world-changing event. And then as soon as you get there, she's like, yeah, he's still alive, but it actually has nothing to do with the miracle whatsoever. He just, took his vitamins.
She's basically like, he kept his body temperature 2 degrees below normal. He ate healthily, and yeah, he's just lived for a long time. And Gwen's like, that works. And Olivia's like, yeah, I mean, there's no profit in it, which is why it's not publicized. But yeah, it works pretty well.
Another just a prank bro moment. I mean, she's honestly one of the biggest, like in the couple minutes she's on screen, she's established herself as one of the biggest trolls on Torchwood.
Only for her to get blown to bits.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wayne. Or Brian, I should say, his character's name.
The actor, he chose to do that. It wasn't in the script.
Method acting.
He was just ad-libbing that, and it was so good that they kept it in. Which is why it was a real explosion. All those people actually died. You can't really undo that either, so they pretty much had no choice but to leave it in the episode. All of this is a lie, just in case anyone was thinking otherwise.
Reminds me of in Gone with the Wind, which I've actually watched now. They quote burn down Atlanta, Georgia. So Atlanta, Georgia is being burned by the Union Army. And it's actually just like, before they'd even started production on the movie, the producer, David O. Selznick, just filmed like they were burning some old sets on the back lot, and they just filmed that and then used that in the movie. But like, that's one of those things that you can only do once. Like you only have all those old sets to burn down once, so if you mess it up, well, I guess you just SOL.
Kept the lens cap on accidentally.
The worst part about that is that was all back when everything was filmed on film, so you wouldn't even know till you sent the film to get developed, and they were like, nothing showed up on the film, sir. You'd be like, shoot.
Guess we have to burn down the real thing now.
Burn down the real Atlanta, Georgia. Anyway, so Jack's pretty suspicious of this, but he's like, all right, well, I guess that's pretty cool.
Well, he does this thing, right, where it's in the last episode, it was set up that Angelo has something in his eye, some sort of, I don't know, cataract thing, or just like his eyes permanent. Yeah, exactly. So Jack checks it, and then we get this like really in your face flashback to him checking out Angelo's eye in the last episode, and it's like, okay, we remember he has the thing in his eye. I guess it is just a birthmark. I guess your eye can have a birthmark on it, although I think it's pretty rare.
Yeah, I think it's just a birthmark. But hey, I don't know. Maybe he's just got a weird genetic defect in his eye. Anyway, Olivia explains that Angelo eventually went on to love a woman because, like, how else would he have a granddaughter, I guess?
There's always adoption, I guess. I don't know.
She also explains, like, the immortal jellyfish, which I know we've talked about probably half a dozen to a dozen times on the podcast before, but we may as well bring it up again since the show brought it up for us this time. There's a species of jellyfish, and, you know, Olivia actually drops the name, but heck if I'm going to remember, like, the actual genus Latin name of this jellyfish, that basically, once it reaches the end of its natural life cycle, its cells undergo this process that allow them to de-age, and the jellyfish reverts back to baby form, basically.
To a polyp.
To a polyp.
I think that's the right term.
She says something like, there are conceivably jellyfish on this planet that are thousands of years old. Which I guess, I mean, it would depend when that, like, species of jellyfish evolved.
I think they're pretty old, yeah. I mean, they've been under observation since, you know, whenever people started observing them, maybe 100 years ago or a little less or something, and it's like, yeah, none of them that we've seen have ever died.
Imagine evolving the ability to just not die.
The perfect species. God, yeah, I mean, they natural selection themselves into just like, yeah, this state where they just nothing. And that's the thing too. Like, I don't know the answer to this. I might have looked it up at one point, but I can't remember. Is like, what if you kill them? You know, is it just if they reach the end of their lifespan then they go back, or are they actually like immortal? Where it's like, if you kill one, does it just go back, or does it die?
I assume if you kill it, it'll die, right? I mean,
I don't know. It'd be pretty OP if it could just withstand all forms of death.
be the ambassadors of death.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a jellyfish too, so I wouldn't be surprised if it had some sort of sting or venom or something that could just kill very easily. Man.
Oh, so I'm reading the Wikipedia page here. Theoretically, this process can go on indefinitely, effectively rendering the jellyfish biologically immortal, although in practice, individuals can still die. In nature, most Teratopsis dorni are likely to succumb to predation or disease in the medusa stage without reverting to the polyp form.
Yeah, so I guess they can be killed or eaten.
They're not immune to disease.
Damn. Yeah.
Oh well.
Well, now that the miracle has occurred, I mean, human beings are more OP than them, because they can't even be killed by being killed.
Well, we also nicely get Olivia just, 8 episodes into the 10 episodes, explaining the entire plot thus far. Like, she's like, let me explain what's happened thus far. And then she explains that the 3 people who were buying Jack in the last episode, who we were like, who are those people? And like, what are they doing? Turns out they're 3 powerful, or were 3 powerful families. I don't think she uses the word mafia, but that's kind of like the vibe I got. Families who started in New York, and they made a pact that day to basically find out how Jack's immortality was caused and to bring the blessing upon the world. Olivia says they intercepted a message between the families in the 90s, including the phrase, the blessing.
Right.
So
Rex immediately tells Esther, who's waiting in the car outside, to start doing some searching on the 3 families.
Meanwhile, in the background, there's this like sort of pseudo-comedic thing going on where people in the background are just getting captured by an unknown assailant force upon the house, and Esther is completely oblivious to all of this happening around her.
And it turns out to be who other than Brian.
Yeah, who would have thought Brian Friedkin was gonna come back at the end of the show here to make some trouble for our Torchwood boys and girls?
Well, Rex did, because this is part of an entire Sherlock-like master plan. So Brian has Rex at gunpoint now, and he tells him that he made his biggest mistake when he decided to call Vera.
He called Vera's brother.
He called Vera's brother to inform him about her death. And he's like, that was your first and last mistake. We traced the call. We found you.
And Rex is like, well, no shit, you traced the call. I thought you would, you doofus.
Yeah, this was all...
Oh, by the way, I have contact lenses that can record everything you're saying.
Right. Which causes the real CIA to show up.
Well, I mean, just like, so I don't know if you had this interpretation, but I had always assumed Brian was like the head of the CIA. Turns out that's not the case at all. He was just the head of like Rex's unit, and the actual head of the CIA is Alan Shapiro.
Right. Yeah,
not to be confused with Ben Shapiro, I guess.
Wow. No, yeah, I guess I thought that. I didn't really have a thought on whether he was, the head of the CIA or not. It didn't even really cross my mind as to what his position was. I mean, because
he was clearly...
He was in charge of that building.
He was clearly Rex's boss at the very least. I guess, I don't know, I thought that meant he was the boss of everyone. Turns out he's just the boss of some random CIA unit that Rex was a part of.
Yeah. So he gets taken in,
Weird.
and by taken in I mean taken out to a car, and then he actually gets taken out by himself because he blows himself up.
He basically says that he said no to the families lots of times before, but this time he can't. So, dos vidania, I
Yeah,
guess.
there's a parallel here, and this is the first part of it with Oswald Danes, where Brian is like, I did a lot of good, or what he thinks is good, at least. We don't really know.
Yeah, it did a lot of good, and it's like, hmm.
But he says that he'll only be remembered for the bad, like that old saying, like, I don't remember exactly what the saying is, but it's the gist is like, do a million good things and one bad one, you're going to be remembered for the bad one. Well, it sets up this parallel that gets touched on later with Oswald Danes, where again it's a really like I don't know about that, buddy, like moment where Oswald is like, yeah, I was a pedophile, but that wasn't all I was. He doesn't even say. Well, I don't think he even says he's changed, right? He just goes like, there's other aspects to me, and it's just like, all right, buddy.
I mean, you're probably right. There are other aspects to you, but it's kind of hard to ignore, like, the big one,
Yeah,
the bad one.
And that's exactly what what's her name, the prostitute lady, tells him basically.
Mm-hmm. We're obviously not there yet, though.
No, that's way at the end. For some reason, they put most of the Oswald stuff at the end instead of interspersing it as Torchwood is wont to do, and as most TV shows that with an A and B plot typically do.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because they're like, we go through the whole episode plot, and then just randomly someone is talking to Rex on the phone. Is like, oh, by the way, Oswald Dane sold out like the Dallas stadium in Dallas. He's the most famous person in the world right now. Smash cut to Oswald Danes.
Yeah.
So Brian blows himself and Olivia up because she also gets arrested.
Right. And they're basically at a loss as to what to do now. So Jack decides to talk to Angelo's comatose body.
Well, he wants to say goodbye because I think they're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're leaving the villa, I think was the thing.
Right. And he's getting annoyed by the constant beeping of the heart monitor machine thing, whose name I don't actually know.
The EKG? That's not an is that an EKG? Might be an EKG. I should know this.
You shouldn't know this?
I should know this.
Electrocardiography is the process of producing an electrocardiogram.
So it's an EKG.
Yeah, it has the little waveform thing picture here, so I'm just going to go by that instead of reading the article.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, so he's getting annoyed by that, and he's like, you know what? Forget this. So he unplugs it, causing Angelo to die.
Yeah. No. Angelo's dead before he unplugs it. He's annoyed by the fact that it flatlines because he kisses Angelo, and then the heart rate monitor just flatlines to a solid tone, which usually means someone's heart rate stopped, and he doesn't believe this because, well, everyone's immortal, and then he unplugs it because he's getting annoyed because he's like, he can't be dead, he's immortal, so I'll just unplug the machine.
Yeah, which he does, and then he's like, oh shoot, oh my god.
So he scans him with his vortex manipulator, and he's like, oh shoot, he's actually dead. I mean, we're skipping over the, like, touching things that Captain Jack says, like, oh, like, I missed you, and, you must have been watching me, and, like, did you see Ianto? You would have liked him, like, you guys would have gotten along, and he's like, did you ever stop me, and I never knew, an old man on the street asking for directions, and I just walked right on by.
Yeah, we skipped over the heartwarming fact that Angelo was, like, a weird, creepy stalker who'd followed Jack for most of his life, I guess, ever since they parted or whatever.
I mean, Jack is literally immortal. Like, do you blame him? Like, who wouldn't be fucking weirded out by that and want to know more?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, since they have the only corpse in the world, as they say, or whatever, as far as anyone knows, they decide to lock everything down until they can get to the bottom of this. And by get to the bottom of this, I mean get to the bottom of whatever's under the bed.
Well, so Jack clearly immediately figures out like what's going on and brushes Gwen off, and he's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna tell you." Although he reveals later that he's actually got a really good reason for not doing this because the CIA is standing right there.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that he doesn't want the CIA to actually know what's going on.
Right. But Esther, God damn it, Esther.
Oh,
Esther
right.
comes in and is like, "It's in the floor, isn't it?" And Jack's like, "Esther, just shut up right now. Just stop talking. Just Esther, walk away." And she's like, "No, it's in the floor, isn't it? I'm going to go tell Shapiro." And Jack's like, "All right. You're the reason why the next 10 world wars start."
Yeah, Telltale Heart style, just gives it up. As all this is happening, Oswald Danes does get checked into his hotel room or whatever, and we meet the oh my god, I'm okay. How do you even phrase this? So we meet the Jilly Kitzinger's Jilly Kitzinger, Shawnee Yamaguchi.
Well, she is there because Rex is put in touch with his old CIA team, and he tells them that Jack has been following Oswald.
Right, and I forgot these characters even existed. I was like, oh yeah, there's an entire, like, a few other characters from the CIA. I completely forgot about this.
Not only did we forget they existed, one of them all of a sudden becomes like the most important character.
She just goes from, like, you know, a literal nothing character to, like, oh my god, this is an integral person to this story.
Yeah, without her, none of this would have happened.
Maybe. It's too early to say.
Also, I skipped my Amazon X-Ray fun fact of the week, which is that apparently Wayne Knight has worn the same pair of glasses on screen every time he wears them on screen since he acted in Seinfeld.
What? Huh?
I know, thrilling fun fact, right? It's our second Wayne Knight fun fact since season 4 started.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he and his personal history, his personal story, his life have plenty of fun facts to offer to the world. We probably won't learn about any other ones since he's dead.
No.
Well, his character's dead.
Probably not.
He's still alive.
Yeah, Wayne Knight's still going. He's got a prolific career.
Well, Jilly's getting a bit upset at Oswald, and this is when she's confronted by Shawnee, who basically just wants to be her assistant.
Yeah, and she's, as we discover, a CIA plant.
Yep.
She shows up basically right after Oswald dismisses Jilly and tells her to go find him a prostitute. Right. And Jilly's like, "How old?" And Oswald's like, "Regular legal age. I just want a regular woman, Jilly."
Yeah, but a redhead, like really making you raise an eyebrow. Really making you raise an eyebrow.
I mean, he's clearly got some fantasies.
Yeah.
About Jilly,
yeah,
I
exactly.
guess.
So meanwhile, Esther is talking to her sister. You forgot about that subplot, didn't you? I almost did.
How could you forget about that subplot? That was the subplot where CPS works quicker than it ever has in our universe.
Yeah, that's why I forgot about it. It was it was so unrealistic that I like just blocked it out of my mind. My mind literally couldn't wrap itself around and accept its existence. Anyway, she's talking to her sister, and her sister wants to volunteer herself and her children as Category 1s.
And then Esther's like, "You can't do that." And her sister's like, "Well, guess what? Already done."
You can't do that? Can they do that?
She's like, "I've already volunteered us."
We're making this sound funny, but it's actually not. Esther is like silently weeping.
I mean, it's not really silent. That actually happens before she tells Shapiro about the floor because I mean, she's like pleading with Jack. Later, she basically justifies this by saying, like, Jack, if you knew, my sister is literally gonna be burned alive.
Oh, and we also skipped over the part where Gwen is talking to Reese. And, Reese and Gwen's mom seem to be doing fine. But Reese is also very curious about the situation. And Gwen says that she thinks humanity has been manipulated for a long time, clearly hinting and foreshadowing that it's going to be the daemons responsible for all of this.
I really wanted to say the meddling monk.
Imagine if that's what it was, and it was like Doctor Who's best kept secret. It was actually just the monk.
You know what? You know what Chris Chibnall can do? What Chris Chibi can do that would blow the minds of so many people in the fandom would be just like at the end of series 13, have the monk show up and have him be like, "Oh yeah, that whole timeless children nonsense, that was me. I changed time. I made you the timeless child." And then end season 13 like that. He's like, "I just wanted to mess around with some time, and I decided your timeline was the place I was going to start. How does it feel, Doctor?"
Revenge is a dish best served cold.
60 years later. The master just standing there going, "What? What?" Chris, I work for free. Call me.
Imagine if, like, in Doctor Who's 100th anniversary, like, the ghost of Za showed up. Or Cal, or whichever one died. We always forget who lived and who died.
Even though we had a death count that included them on it in order.
Well, anyway, they uncover the thing underneath the floor, and it's just this alien device.
Yeah, it's just like weird sort of panel.
Mm-hmm.
This sci-fi looking panel. Which, duh, what did you think it was going to be? Do you think this is going to be like Dracula can only walk on the dirt of his homeland? Nah.
A Tickle Me Elmo covered with blood.
What? That is such a remarkably specific reference.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
No.
Okay, never mind.
Actually,
then. Never mind. It's a long tangent.
Well, don't worry. I'm going to look it up and put it in the show notes. Just so weird and remarkably specific.
Anyway, Jack barely even knows what it is. He just knows it's bad news.
He tries to explain this to Shapiro and the CIA. But Shapiro's like, "Yeah, I don't care. Deporting Gwen till you tell us what it is." And he's just like, "Dog, I don't know, man."
He does bring up morphic fields again.
Yeah, he says that this panel basically proves his original theory that it was morphic fields all along, and he basically then rubs that in Rex's face. Yeah. So
then we get a really uncomfortable scene with Oswald. Looking back at my notes, it's actually not as much of the Oswald stuff is slammed at the end. I don't know why I thought that, but that was just kind of the impression I got, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the prostitute shows up, and it's just this really uncomfortable scene. It's just really uncomfortable from every single angle you could look at it from.
I mean, it tries to make you feel kind of bad for Oswald. Because Oswald's like, "Look, I'm so much more than the kid that I killed and raped. I'm a good guy underneath if you get to know me." And everyone in the audience is like...
Right.
But it's trying to get you to feel bad for Oswald. It's trying to get you to be like, Oswald's like a three-dimensional person who's got other things going on and had like a life before he messed it up. But at this point, we're so deep into the Oswald just kind of sucks. Like, we're 8 episodes deep of like hating Oswald, but this is like too little, too late.
Yeah, and it's like the other aspect to it too is like when the prostitute comes in first, she's like, you know, she's trying to act all innocent and stuff, and she says that, and it's obviously because of Oswald's pedophilic tendencies. And it's just really uncomfortable to watch. It's just really damn uncomfortable to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then he tries to... She calls it a date. He tries to, you know, say that they should have dinner first or go out somewhere. And she starts kind of, you know, making fun of him for that. And it's all just really...
Yeah, probably shouldn't make fun of the guy who's literally killed someone before. Like,
yeah.
Probably not a great play.
But then she gets fed up with him after a while, and she tells him that he's a Category 0, which somehow he's like the only one in the world who hasn't heard about Category 0. Guess it's...
So he's like, so what is Category 0? And she's like, well, it's you. He's like, what? So then he goes to ask Jilly, like, what that means, and she's like, it means people who deserve to die, basically.
Right, she explains it as, like, people whose moral, you know, compasses and failures are so extreme that they don't belong in society anymore. Basically, people who were sentenced to death, but who are now obviously can't die, like Oswald.
Yeah, and they're specifically ramming this legislation through.
Yeah, I mean...
For Oswald.
Yeah, like, what is it? You know, the miracle happens, and then all of a sudden the government gets fast in it, you know? Like...
That's the most unrealistic thing about Miracle Day. And people think I'm joking, but I'm actually dead serious. The most unrealistic thing. And that's almost kind of a, like, the British part of America thing, where, like, Russell T., working on the show, whoever was writing, like, believing that the U.S., you know, political system would be ramming through all these medical bills into, like, I don't know. It's been like a month since the miracle happened, let's say. Maybe 2 if we're optimistic. Like, just look at the past year and look at how long it took Congress to pass one bill about COVID-19. It took them like 8 months.
Right. Yeah, clearly demonstrating that even in times of crisis, they're not speeding up.
Yeah, nothing's going to make them speed up. Not the least of which is going to be everyone, like, not dying all of a sudden.
How much of, like, you know, Congress being slow is just that, like, they get paid salaries and, like, the longer they take, the more secure, you know. I guess they're up for re-election every, 2 years, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, 2 if you're in the House, 6 if you're in the Senate.
No, whatever.
Hey, look, man, I don't know. I mean, there's also the, like, politician who yet socialized healthcare is against socialized healthcare angle. But anyway, we don't have to go into that.
What we do have to go into is this conversation between Jack, Esther, and Rex. Because Gwen has already been taken out, kicking and screaming. She's already been deported.
Yeah, you know, Jack actually does start talking to Shapiro, so you wonder why he continues to go through with the deportation threat, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, Jack prompts Rex and Esther to touch the panel, which allows them to communicate without anyone around being able to hear.
Yeah, we should probably explain what the panel is, because by this point Jack has explained that it's a null field generator. And basically it nullifies whatever field it's set to be the anti of. So since Angelo died, this is why he thinks that it proves the morphic field idea. Since it's a null field generator, it's generating the null of the morphic field. He also then indicates that anybody who stepped onto the panel would be mortal while they're on the panel, basically.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I forgot about that, or I didn't catch it.
And yeah, well, that's now he's explaining that the reason why they can talk without anyone listening to him is because he's also turned it into a null field for sound, so sound doesn't escape the field of the panel.
Right.
Shapiro thinks that this might be a solution to the miracle. It's just like, so if we just get one of these big enough to generate a field for the whole world, we'll solve this thing, right? And Jack goes, yeah, but that would be the size of the Earth, basically. Because the null field only exists within the extent of the panel. He mentions also that Angelo probably took this out of the Torchwood hub when it got blown the hell up in Children of Earth.
Right.
Since the only place that Jack knew of one existing on Earth was in the Torchwood hub.
So Angelo was there. I mean, where's the director's cut of Children of Earth that just has Angelo lurking in the background? You know?
Old man Angelo. 100-something-year-old Angelo wheeling into the wreckage of the Torchwood hub in Children of Earth, picking up the null field generator. It's a post-credit sequence at the end of day 5. Angelo rolls in, he picks it up, and he goes, fine, I'll do it myself. Just like Thanos in, I don't remember which post-credit sequence that was, but anyway.
Yeah, all those Marvel movies blend into one another.
I mean, 80% of them are the same movie, but anyway. Ooh, burn!
I think most people would agree with that, even people who like them.
Yeah. But, you know, that 20% that's different, those ones are the good ones. Oh, yeah, I went there.
Anyway, Jack comes up with this plan to escape. I think it's him and Esther are going to make it out of there. Or no, it's just him. It's just him.
I think it's just him, right. But then he gets shot.
They go outside and they're like, all right, looks like the coast is clear. Let's just get into this car, and then he gets shot.
And then Esther's like, shoot, that guy saw my face, dog. Like, that sucks. And then Rex is like, guess you gotta go with him then.
This off-screen person is who saw their faces didn't see Rex.
Yeah, Rex says that one of them needs to stay behind to sell the story.
Yeah,
so
it was a pretty bad plan. Like, I guess there was probably nothing else they could do, but yeah, I mean, it just all falls apart.
There's also, we forgot to mention that Jack explains why he didn't want to tell the CIA about this. And the reason why he didn't want to tell the CIA is because he says, like, imagine the CIA with this tech. Imagine bombs that only blow up like a certain building or specific people. He's like, imagine hellfire raining down on a portion of Earth and everybody on the other side of one wall being fine. Like, basically nuking parts of the world and, like, containing that damage within an area. It's like, imagine the kind of damage you could cause with this. And Esther's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Well, Jack and Esther are driving off. More like just Esther is. She's driving. She doesn't know where to go. She's getting all distraught over it. Jack's bleeding out in the back seat. Sean is bleeding out in the elevator.
Oh, yeah, because we forgot to mention this guy shows up. He's like, hey, you have a CIA plant following you. And Jilly's like, what? That doesn't make sense. So he just shoots Shawnee.
Right, it's the same guy from, I forget which episode, but he showed up in one of the earlier episodes and just confronted Jilly and he was like, we're watching you, and we like what you're doing.
You're the blue-eyed man.
Mm-hmm. So he actually offers Jilly a job, and she goes with him. She's really, in a way, she is more, you know, not more dangerous, but she's more, I don't know, villainous than Oswald. Obviously not in, like, terms of their past, but, like, just in terms of, like, she's vying for power, obviously, and Oswald seemingly is too, but this episode definitely makes it very clear that, like, Oswald wants to use the power that he now somehow has to, like, return to, like, some semblance of a normal life. Whereas Jilly is just, like, aiming for the top of whatever this thing is. And she's totally, you know, out of her element here, but whatever, she's going for it.
Yeah, I mean, Oswald also just found out that FICOR is just using him and then they're going to discard him. Like, he's definitely become a mega pastor. I think the CIA agent earlier mentions that he's preaching all that love and tolerance and revelations nonsense. I have a note here related to this that goes, Jilly being scared that this dude shot someone, but then also agreeing to join a weird, mysterious, all-powerful super cabal seems pretty weird. Like the fact that she's terrified that he just shoots her right in front of her, but then she's like, yeah, I'll join your super powerful cabal that's aiming to take over the world. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in that way, that like, she's like a super dangerous character because she's kind of unhinged, you know?
But I don't know if it's unhinged because she's clearly like upset or shocked that he shot her. Like she didn't want it to happen. She didn't like it, which is why I'm like,
Yeah, I think she wants that power, you know?
The power over death and life.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I really liked this episode. I really liked how it slowed everything down and kind of gave us some breathing room here before we launch into what is sure to be a bombastic finale.
The preview for next week really leans heavily on one single plot point of next week's episode that doesn't look like it can support the entire episode, which is just that like Gwen's family is hiding Geraint, whatever, and he's a Category 1. So the government's here to take him away. Doesn't really matter what everybody else is doing because all we care about is Geraint.
Yeah, what if they just never go back? What if the rest of the season, the 2 episodes we have remaining, are just about that, and they never go back to anything else that they set up?
The solution to Miracle Day is just off screen.
Or there just is no solution. They just never resolve it.
So secretly, all humans in the Doctor Who universe are immortal after this?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, that's pretty weird. Wonder why the Doctor never mentioned that.
Yeah, maybe Grace didn't actually die. You know?
Jeez.
Maybe she's still out there. Maybe that's
Chris Chibnall at the end of season 13.
Yeah, like the miracle actually never went away and Grace is still alive.
Yeah, Graham is off the show, but they bring Grace back.
Yeah. Series 13, Episode 1, Grace is back, missing Graham by a hair's breadth.
John Bishop as Dan as a complete, like, red herring. The next companion is actually Grace. We had Ryan. We had Graham. Are you ready for Grace?
As we've said probably dozens, if not hundreds of times before, never put us in charge of anything.
If we ever are put in charge of Doctor Who, we would either run it into the ground or it would be more popular than ever before just because people would be watching it to just see what the hell is going to happen next.
Total creative freedom. Unlimited budget.
Look, I know exactly what I would do with Doctor Who if they gave me total creative freedom and unlimited budget, and I've already gone over it multiple times on the show before.
Yeah. Well, anyway, something that we tend to go over on the show, and that we have gone over before, and that we will go over again now, is how Jack is taking all of this.
Pretty badly.
Yeah.
Honestly. Jack's taking it pretty badly.
He's bleeding out in the back of a car. If he is mortal like he suspects, then he might be dead.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that it ends with Esther yelling at Jack for help and directions and Jack not responding.
Right, and her just kind of breaking down, saying she doesn't know what to do or where to go.
Yeah, she's out in the desert in Nevada, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, Yeah, I mean the preview text for next week, the summary text says something like broken, scattered across the world. The Torchwood team tries to rally for I don't remember the rest. A final battle against Miracle Day against the families.
Yeah, we don't even know who they are. I mean, we're closing in on the end. We don't know anything
Yeah,
really.
we forgot to mention Esther googling the family's names. Who I have it written down
It was
here: Abel, March, Costa, Dane, and
Friends,
Friends. Spelt like friends, I guess. I don't know.
but they've been erased from all records.
Right. The two random CIA agents we never thought were going to come back have like pulled up ancient census records in book form from I guess the Library of Congress or something.
And we didn't mention, I think, we kind of hinted at it, but here at the end, you actually see that what's her name, the one CIA agent who was like friends with Esther, is actually part of the families.
Yeah, she was the one who sold out Shawnee.
Right.
So
Didn't see that coming.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we referenced this earlier about her becoming a major integral plot point. Plot character randomly. Like, that's a pretty ambitious move by the creative team.
Yeah, and I mean, they hit it pretty well. It wasn't like hinted at, either through the dialogue or visuals or music that she was going to come back or be anyone important at all. She was just kind of there for someone, seemingly as someone for Esther to talk to, but lo and behold.
Lo and behold, she's a no dirt, no good, rotten scoundrel.
Well, you know who else is a no good, rotten scoundrel? Gwen. Because she's a sinner. Who in this episode I had as committing wrath and pride.
Yeah, that's what I had. She commits wrath a lot when they get to the villa, actually yelling at everyone, trying to fight people. When the CIA shows up and takes away Olivia, she tries to beat them up, only for Jack to grab him and be like, no. No.
Not yet, Gwen. We'll have our time. No, he doesn't say that.
What is the quote? Is it from Watchmen? Maybe it's from something else where someone's like, they'll look up at me and ask for help and I'll say no. Shoot, what is that?
Sounds like it would be from Watchmen. Might be from some other edgy superhero thing.
Oh, yeah, it is from Watchmen. The accumulated filth of all their sex and murder will foam up about their waists, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us!" And I'll look down and whisper, "No."
Well, Gwen also again commits pride, being proud of her Welshness.
Right. Well, yeah, that's... Yeah, okay. Her Welshness. Her Welsh lineage.
Her Welshosity.
How do you spell that?
Welsh, and then osity.
That didn't help at all.
Too bad.
Well, anyway, I already went over my rough British part of America thing, which is just the hilarious, the belief that the U.S. government can move quickly if it wants to. Like, they don't want to. Nothing's going to make them want to, except if it's tax cuts for the wealthy.
Yeah, it really makes me wonder, does the British government actually, get stuff done in a timely manner?
I think so, yes. Dang. You know what? Fans, reach out and tell us, because now I'm curious to know the like on the ground, boots on the ground perception of the British government. Because I'll tell you, the boots on the ground, perception of the U.S. government, at least where we live, is we all think that the government is kind of ineffectual and slow and never really does anything useful, except for the like 2 times a year it decides to pass a bill.
Yeah. Just massive amounts of like sluggishness, ineptitude, moral bankruptcy. Just
There's a reason why the tax code is like hundreds of pages long and impossible to read.
But yeah, tell us about the British government, please.
Yeah, you guys the same?
Or wherever you're from. I think many of our listeners are from Britain, so that's why we mention it by name, but just, yeah, wherever you're from.
Yeah, what about the Australian government? I've heard in Australia it's required that everyone votes, so they get like 95% voter turnout, which, God, what a dream if we got anywhere close to that in the US. We're lucky if we top like 45%.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't force people to vote here, at least, so. Not 45% is for the presidential elections, too.
That's also
for the
true.
midterms, it's like way lower than that, probably less than a quarter.
I mean, to be fair, Australia also, from what I've heard, automatically registers you to vote and like mails you your ballot. So it's really like, it's basically no skin off your back to vote. It shows up in your mailbox, you fill it in, and you put it back in the mailbox. Like, they make it so hard to vote here. I don't think people understand how incredibly difficult it is in some places, because every state has its own voting laws too. Like how difficult it is to vote in some places here.
Yeah, plus there's the history of like, people, the government, and just everyone desperately trying to get anyone who's not white to not vote. Like there's been what is the term? Concerted efforts made to like make sure that doesn't happen throughout history.
Yeah, real suspicious when like the day after Georgia elected 2 Democratic senators, the Georgia legislature was like, guess what? New voting laws on the books.
Also, not to even mention gerrymandering, and just I'll put some in the show notes if I can find some really funny ones. But the shapes of U.S. counties to make sure certain people from certain parties are elected into power is actually really damn funny. Like, the county shapes in themselves are just actually hilarious.
I remember a really, really difficult. I'll see if I can find this. A site that someone had made that took like the most gerrymandered states and turned them into puzzles. So it basically gave you all the gerrymandered districts and the state border and was like, here, fit all the districts back into the state. And when you do that, you realize just how goddamn hard it is and just how screwed up the whole thing is.
Anyway, that's Torchwood.
Anyway, enough ragging on the U.S. government, I guess. That's it for me for Torchwood this week, except for Britain's 10 actors.
Right.
So I looked up John Delancey playing Alan Shapiro, most famous for his recurring role as Q in Star Trek Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Lower Decks. His episode with Deep Space Nine actually is an episode he shares with Nana Visitor, so that's kind of interesting. They're both main characters in that episode. He's also the voice of Discord the Dragon in My Little Pony. He's also had a recurring role on Stargate, Invader Zim, Twilight Zone. He had a guest role on CSI. He had a recurring role on Breaking Bad, The Mentalist. So he's been around.
Yeah, been around the block a couple times.
Getting his experience in.
Yeah, good for him. Well, I looked up Constance Wu, who played Shawnee. Mm-hmm. She's been acting for It looks like about 15 years since her earliest role, according to IMDb, is 2006. She's been on a lot of things. I think her biggest role was on Fresh Off the Boat, the sitcom, which I've watched more episodes of than I probably even want to admit. I don't know why I've watched so much of that show, but I just have. She was on East Siders, not EastEnders. I don't know what that is, but she was on it.
East Siders.
She was also in Crazy Rich Asians. And
yeah, so her career
stuff.
kind of took off after Torchwood, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think her career really took off after Fresh Off the Boat because she plays, the mom, so she's a main character on that show. But yeah, that's her.
Nice. Well, on that note, no emails this week, as far as I could tell. So nothing to respond to there.
No comments on the social media sites either.
Bummer. Well, 2 more weeks and we're done with Torchwood Season 4, Miracle Day. So if you would like to reach us, you can email us at thedoctor@decadentvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on the Miracle Day, I guess. The end. You can find us on YouTube at Decadent Vegetable. Find us on any podcasting platform at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. Next time we're going to be watching The Gathering. But until then, the end.